The chamber stretched beyond what human eyes could fully comprehend. A massive dome that housed representatives from 47 different species across the known Galaxy. Ambassador Lisa Grant stood at the center platform, her hands folded behind her back in a military stance she had never quite abandoned even after 20 years in diplomatic service. Beside her, Commander Jake Morrison watched the alien delegates with careful eyes, his uniform crisp and decorated with medals from conflicts. These beings had never heard of High Chancellor Vexter towered above them on his elevated throne, his insectoid features clicking with what Lisa had learned to recognize as amusement. The human ambassador wishes to address the council regarding the Titan VII dispute, Vexter announced, his translated voice echoing through the chamber with barely concealed mockery. Lisa stepped forward, her voice steady and clear. Honored council members, humanity requests that you reconsider your claim on Titan VII colony, she began. Over 12,000 human civilians live there, families who have built their homes and lives on that world for 3 generations. Delegate Soren, a massive reptilian being with scales that shifted colors with his emotions, leaned forward in his seat. His scales showed deep red, which Jake recognized as derision. Ambassador Grant, your species has occupied that system for barely a century, Zoran said, his voice dripping with condescension. The resources of Titan VII are required by the Council for strategic purposes that extend beyond your limited understanding of galactic politics. Lisa's jaw tightened, but her voice remained calm. With respect, Delegate Soren, those resources were discovered and developed by human labor and ingenuity, she replied. We will not abandon our people to satisfy council demands. A wave of clicking, hissing, and warbling sounds filled the chamber as various delegates expressed their reactions. Council member Thelara, whose aquatic form floated in a specialized tank, raised a webbed hand for attention. Perhaps we can negotiate a shared access agreement, Thelara suggested, her synthesized voice gentle. There need not be conflict over this matter. Vexter's mandibles clacked sharply, cutting off further discussion. There will be no negotiation, he declared. The Council has made its decision based on galactic needs that supersede the desires of one minor species. Jake Morrison could no longer remain silent. High Chancellor, I must warn you that humanity will not comply with this ultimatum, he said, stepping forward. Our history shows that we do not surrender when our people are threatened. This statement triggered an eruption of what could only be described as laughter from multiple delegates. The sounds were alien and disturbing, but the intent was unmistakable as orange scales shifted to bright yellow, indicating what the translation software labeled as genuine mirth. Commander Morrison, your entire military fleet consists of fewer than 200 vessels, he said between what sounded like barking laughs. The Council commands over 10,000 warships representing the combined might of 47 civilizations. Your warning is noted and dismissed as the bluster of a young species that is yet to learn its place in the galaxy. Jake pulled out a data tablet and projected holographic images into the center of the chamber. I would like to present historical records of human conflicts, he said formally. The images show battles from Earth's bloody past, from ancient warfare to modern conflicts. In our history, humans have fought wars lasting decades, even centuries, Jake continued. We have endured occupations, genocides, and catastrophic losses. Yet we have never permanently accepted defeat. When pushed to the edge, humans do not calculate odds or measure resources. We simply refuse to stop fighting. Vexter studied the images with multiple eyes, his expression unreadable. Your primitive conflicts among yourselves prove nothing about your capacity to face galactic military power, he said. Dismissively, this council has maintained peace and order for over 6,000 years. We have ended rebellions from species far more advanced than yours with minimal effort. Lisa tried once more, her voice taking on an urgent tone. High Chancellor, please understand what Commander Morrison is trying to explain, she said. Humanity does not think like other species you have encountered. We do not accept the logic of overwhelming force. We do not surrender because the math says we should. If you attack Titan 7, you will not be fighting a rational campaign with predictable outcomes. You will be fighting a species that will keep striking at you until either we are extinct or you leave us alone. The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then Vexter began to laugh. A sound like grinding metal that set Lisa's teeth on edge. Other council members joined in, creating a cacophony of alien mirth. Ambassador Grant, your passion is admirable, but your logic is flawed, Vexter said when the laughter subsided. You speak of extinction as if it were a viable strategy. No species pursues its own annihilation over a single colony. You will come to understand that resistance is futile when faced with true galactic power. Zoran stood from his seat, his massive form intimidating even at a distance. I have studied your military capabilities extensively, he announced. One council battle fleet could end human resistance within days. Your technology is centuries behind our standard equipment. Your tactics are derived from planetary thinking, not stellar warfare. This discussion is a waste of the council's time. Vexter raised a clawed hand, bringing order back to the chamber. The council's decision is final, he declared. Humanity has 48 hours to evacuate Titan 7 colony. All civilians and military personnel must withdraw completely. If any humans remain after this deadline, they will be removed by force. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming military response. This session is concluded. Lisa and Jake stood their ground for a moment longer, meeting Vexter's multifaceted gaze with steady human eyes. Then they turned and walked from the chamber with measured dignity, refusing to show the fear and anger churning inside them. The massive doors sealed behind them with a sound like thunder in the corridor outside. Jake finally allowed his military composure to crack slightly. They didn't listen, he said quietly. They didn't even try to listen. Lisa activated her secure communicator, her hand shaking slightly with controlled fury. No, they didn't, she agreed. They think we're bluffing or delusional. They have no concept of what they've just started. She entered the encryption codes and waited for the connection to Earth to establish when the green light appeared. She spoke carefully and clearly. This is Ambassador Grant to Central Command, she said. Diplomatic. Resolution has failed. The Council refuses all negotiations and has issued an ultimatum for Titan 7. They mocked our warnings and dismissed our capabilities. She paused, thinking of the 12,000 civilians who would soon be in the crossfire. Prepare everything, she concluded. War is coming, and they have no idea what humans are capable of when they never stop striking. The communicator clicked off, leaving them in the sterile silence of the alien corridor. Jake looked at Lisa, seeing the same grim determination he felt reflected in her eyes. They'll learn, he said quietly. They'll learn what it means to fight humans. Lisa nodded, already planning the evacuation procedures and defensive strategies they would need. Yes, she agreed. They'll learn. But the lesson is going to cost us dearly. Together they walked toward their ship, carrying the weight of a war that would reshape galactic politics forever behind them in the council chamber. Vexter was already planning the quick military action that would teach these upstart humans their place. He had no way of knowing that he had just made the greatest mistake of his long career. The humans had given their warning. Clear and direct now, the galaxy would discover what happened when that warning was ignored. The asteroid field surrounding Titan 7 looked peaceful in the view screen. Countless rocks drifting in their ancient dance around the colony world below. Captain Ryan Parker stood on the bridge of the human defense ship Valiant, Watching the tactical display with grim focus, 12 human vessels hung in defensive formation, their crews knowing full well that they faced impossible odds. Council fleet emerging from hyperspace, Lieutenant Amy Chun announced from her tactical station, her voice professionally calm despite the fear everyone felt. Confirmed count is 203 vessels, ranging from corvettes to dreadnoughts. Ryan nodded slowly, his hands gripping the armrests of his command chair. All ships, battle stations, he ordered over the fleet channel. Remember the plan, we're not here to win. We're here to buy time for the civilian evacuation. On Titan VII's surface, Colony Director Paul Henderson coordinated the frantic evacuation efforts. Families rushed toward the hidden transport tunnels that engineers had constructed over the past 48 hours, carrying whatever possessions they could manage. Children cried, parents shouted, and the organized chaos of 12,000 people trying to escape filled every street. And Porter transport ships Epsilon through Kappa are loaded and launching, reported Dr. Karen Blake from the Underground Command Center. She had abandoned her research on the new railgun technology to help coordinate the evacuation. That's 6,000 people safely away. But we need at least another 4 hours for the rest. Paul wiped sweat from his forehead, watching the feeds from orbit where the massive Council fleet was taking formation. Pray that Captain Parker can give us that time, he said quietly in space. Admiral Vorthak commanded the Council fleet from his flagship, a vessel 10 times larger than any human ship his species valued honor through strength. And he saw this assignment as beneath his capabilities. Open a channel to the human vessels, he ordered, his confidence absolute. The view screen shifted to show Captain Ryan Parker's face. Human features set in determined lines. Human Commander, I am Admiral Vorthak of the Council Enforcement Fleet, he announced. You are ordered to stand down immediately and allow our forces to secure Titan VII colony. This is your only chance to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Ryan met the Admiral's gaze steadily through the screen. No, he said, the single word carrying complete finality. Then he cut the channel, leaving Vorthak staring at a blank screen. The Admiral's skin flushed with color, indicating his surprise and growing anger. Their response is to refuse with a single word, he said to his bridge crew. Very well. They have chosen destruction. All ships, advance and eliminate the human vessels. Show them what happens when primitives defy the Council. The Council fleet moved forward like a tidal wave of metal and energy, their formation perfect. An overwhelming Ryan watched them come, waiting for the precise moment. All ships, execute pattern Delta 7, he commanded. Use the asteroids, make them work for every meter. The 12 human ships scattered like startled fish, diving into the asteroid field with reckless speed. Council captains followed confidently, their superior sensors easily tracking the human vessels through the rocks. What they didn't expect was the sudden reversal, as human ships pivoted and fired from unexpected angles. Lieutenant Amy Chun's fingers flew across her tactical console, coordinating targeting solutions with split-second precision. Firing solution locked on Council Destroyer 7 Alpha, she announced. Railgun capacitors at full charge. Fire. Ryan ordered the experimental railgun technology that Dr. Karen Blake had developed punched through the Council Destroyer's shields like they weren't even there. The kinetic projectile, accelerated to a fraction of light speed, tore through the ship's hull and detonated its reactor. The explosion lit up the asteroid field, and for a moment, the Council advance hesitated. They weren't expecting that, Amy said with fierce satisfaction, retargeting on Cruiser 4 Beta across the battlefield. Other human ships deployed similar tactics. They used the asteroids for cover, fired from ambush positions, and employed weapons the Council had never encountered before. Within the first hour, 15 Council ships were destroyed or disabled. Admiral Vorthak stared at his tactical display in disbelief as Losses were minimal compared to his total force. But they shouldn't have existed at all. How are these primitives destroying our ships? He demanded. Their technology should be centuries behind ours. His tactical officer studied the sensor data with growing concern. Admiral, they're using kinetic weapons that bypass our energy shields, he reported. Our shields were designed to stop plasma and particle beams, not solid projectiles moving at these velocities. Vorthic's expression hardened. Adapt shield frequencies and increase firepower, he ordered. Overwhelm them with numbers. They cannot maintain these tactics indefinitely. He was right. About that, the hours passed. Human ships began to fall. The Defender took a direct hit from 3 Council cruisers simultaneously, her hull breaking apart in a brilliant explosion. The Guardian sacrificed herself, ramming a Council dreadnought. Her captain's last transmission, a defiant war cry. Captain Ryan Parker watched his fleet die ship by ship. Each loss a knife to his heart. Evacuation status, he requested through clenched teeth. Paul Henderson's voice came through, strained but determined. Transports Lambda through Omega are launching now, he reported. That's everyone. All 12,000 civilians are off the surface and accelerating out of the system. Captain Parker, you've done it. You've saved them all. Ryan felt a moment of relief wash through him, followed immediately by the cold realization of what came next. All remaining ships. This is Captain Parker, he announced over the fleet channel. The civilians are safe. We've completed our primary mission. Now we make them pay for every meter of space they think they've won. All ships, engage at will. Show these bastards what humans do when they're fighting for something that matters. The 5 remaining human vessels charged directly at the Council fleet, abandoning all defensive tactics for pure aggression. The Valiant's crew worked with desperate efficiency, firing every weapon they had. Amy Chan called out targets in rapid succession, her voice never wavering, even as the ship shuddered from incoming fire. Direct hit on Carrier 12 Gamma, she reported. Their hangar bay is venting atmosphere and fighters. Retargeting on. The sentence ended as a Council plasma torpedo struck the Valiant's starboard side, tearing through armor and reaching the reactor compartment. Ryan felt the ship dying around him, systems failing in cascading sequence. All hands, abandon ship, he ordered. This is not a drill. Get to the escape pods now. Amy looked at him, her face pale but composed. Captain, the helm is not responding, she said quietly. We can't maneuver to give the pods a safe launch window. Ryan understood immediately. Someone had to stay at the helm, manually controlling the ship's final moments to give the crew a chance to escape. Get to the pods. Lieutenant, he ordered. That's a direct order. Tell them what happened here. Amy hesitated for only a second, then saluted sharply. Yes, sir, she said. It's been an honor serving with you, Captain. She ran for the escape pod bay. Leaving Ryan alone on the dying bridge, he gripped the manual helm controls, using what little power remained to keep the Valiant steady around him. He saw the other human ships making similar sacrifices. Liberty's captain held his ship together just long enough for his crew to evacuate. The Freedom rammed a Council battleship, her hull tearing open but taking the enemy vessel with her through his view screen. Ryan saw the last transport ships disappearing into hyperspace, carrying 12,000 civilians to safety. He smiled despite the alarms blaring around him. We did it, he said to the empty bridge. We saved them all. Then the Valiant's reactor finally gave up, and Captain Ryan Parker died in a flash of light that consumed 3 Council vessels caught too close to the explosion hours later. Admiral Vorthak surveyed the battlefield from his damaged flagship. The colony below was empty, a ghost town. The human defenders were all dead or captured by any military standard. He had won a complete victory, so why did it feel like he had lost something important? damage report. He ordered. His tactical officer looked grim. 38 ships destroyed. Another 47 damaged and requiring shipyard repairs, he reported. Casualty count is still being compiled, but preliminary estimates suggest over 12,000 dead. Lorthic felt cold shock run through him. 12,000 Council military personnel dead. The same number as the human civilians who had escaped. How? He demanded. How did 12 primitive vessels inflict such damage? No one on the bridge had an answer. Lorthic composed his report to the Council, carefully wording his description of the battle. He emphasized the strategic victory and minimized the losses as he transmitted the message. He included his conclusion: minimal resistance encountered. Humans understand reality now, but deep inside, doubt gnawed at him. He had seen the way those human ships had fought, the way they had sacrificed themselves without hesitation. That wasn't the behavior of a species that had learned its lesson. That was the behavior of a species that had just gotten started on Earth. Military commanders received the news of Titan VII with grim determination. Every civilian saved, but the entire defense fleet lost. The Council thought they had won easily. They had no idea what was coming next. Admiral Kate Sullivan looked at the production reports showing hundreds of new human warships under construction. 3 weeks had passed since Titan VII, and the Galactic Council expected humanity to request peace negotiations. High Chancellor Vexter sat in his private chambers, reviewing reports and waiting for the inevitable human surrender. Instead, his communicator erupted with urgent alerts from 6 different Council outposts simultaneously. What is happening? He demanded. Connecting to the military command center, the tactical coordinator's image appeared, his expression showing what Vexter's species recognized as panic. High Chancellor, we're under attack at multiple locations. The coordinator reported, human fleets have struck Supply Depot Gamma 9, Communication Relay Alpha 7, and 4 mining outposts across the Outer Rim. Vex. The rest. Mandibles clacked in confusion. How many human ships? He asked. Intelligence reports indicated they lost their entire defensive fleet at Titan VII, sir. Each attack involves between 8 and 15 vessels. The coordinator replied, they're using hit-and-run tactics, striking hard and withdrawing before our response fleets can engage. They're targeting infrastructure and supply lines, not engaging in direct fleet battles. Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded the human offensive from her hidden command ship, the Resolution, located in a nebula that scrambled Council sensors. Her tactical display showed all 6 operations in progress, each one executed with precision timing. Status report from Strike Team Delta. She requested. Commander Ben Torres appeared on her screen, his special operations team visible behind him inside a Council supply depot. We've placed charges on all primary storage tanks, Ben reported. Estimate 70% of their fuel reserves for this sector will be destroyed. Extraction in 3 minutes. Kate nodded approvingly, confirmed. Commander, she said, make sure your team gets out clean. We need you for the next operation. On the other side of the galaxy? Captain Marcus Hill led a small fleet of 8 human ships through an asteroid belt, pursuing a Council ammunition convoy. His vessels had been constructed in the 3 weeks since Titan VII, built in orbital shipyards that now operated 24 hours a day. Every human facility had converted to war production, every citizen contributing to the war effort in whatever way they could. Target the escort ships first, Marcus ordered his tactical team. Once the escorts are down, we board the supply vessels and take what we need. The human ships emerged from the asteroids with weapons blazing, the Council escorts, not expecting any threat in this remote sector, were caught completely unprepared. Within minutes, 3 escort ships were disabled, and human boarding teams were cutting through the hulls of the ammunition transports, secure all plasma torpedoes and energy cells. Marcus commanded over the boarding channel. We have 10 minutes before Council reinforcements arrive. His teams worked with practiced efficiency, transferring crates of ammunition to their own cargo. Holds they had learned quickly that Council weapons could be reverse-engineered and adapted to human ships when the warning alarms sounded, indicating approaching Council vessels. Marcus ordered immediate withdrawal as fleet disappear back into the asteroid field, leaving behind 3 burning escort ships and empty supply transports. Delegate Zoran stormed into the Council emergency session, his scales showing colors that indicated fury and confusion. "This is unacceptable," he roared. "3 weeks ago, we crushed their defensive fleet. Where are these new human ships coming from?" Council member Thylara studied the tactical reports with her analytical mind, looking for patterns. The attacks are too coordinated to be random desperation, she observed. They're systematically targeting our logistics network. If this continues, our ability to maintain fleet operations in the Outer Rim will be severely compromised. Vexter accessed intelligence reports, trying to understand what was happening. What he saw disturbed him deeply. Our reconnaissance shows that every human manufacturing facility has been converted to military production, he read aloud. They're civilian shipyards. They're agricultural processing plants. Even their educational institutions are now producing weapons and ships. They've mobilized their entire society for war. Zoran's scales shifted to dark purple, indicating disbelief. "That's impossible," he declared. "No species can sustain total war mobilization. It destroys the economy and society. They'll collapse within months from internal strain." But the attacks continued with increasing frequency and sophistication. Admiral Kate Sullivan personally led a raid on a Council communication relay, knowing that cutting off their coordination would multiply the effectiveness of human operations. Her ship, the Resolution, dropped out of hyperspace alongside 12 other vessels, all bearing down on the relay station. "Target the antenna arrays and power generators," she commanded. "We don't need to destroy the station. Just cripple their ability to communicate for a few weeks." The Council defenders fought bravely, but they were designed to repel pirates and raiders, not a coordinated military assault. Within an hour, the relay station was dark and silent, its massive antennas drifting in space as debris. Kate watched the destruction with satisfaction. "That's going to cause chaos in their fleet coordination across 3 sectors," she said to her tactical officer. "They'll be operating blind for weeks while they repair or replace this facility." As her fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, a communications officer intercepted a Council military transmission. "Admiral, you need to hear this," the officer said, playing back the recorded message. It was from a Council patrol that had encountered one of the human strike teams. "They're not stopping." A panicked Council officer was reporting. "We damaged their lead ship and they still pressed the attack. They boarded our vessel with hull breaches on their own ship. These humans are insane. They fight like they don't care if they die." Kate allowed herself a thin smile. "Send that recording to Earth. Command," she ordered. "Make sure they know their tactics are working. Council is starting to fear us on Earth." Production facilities churned out new ships at a rate that would have been considered impossible 3 months ago. Engineers worked 18-hour shifts. Teachers taught weapons maintenance instead of literature, and farmers coordinated supply chains for military logistics. President Helen Carter reviewed the casualty reports with a heavy heart. Human losses were significant. Every raid cost lives. Every engagement resulted in ships that didn't come home. But the reports from the front lines showed that Council forces were bleeding even harder. Their economy, built on centuries of peace and comfortable dominance, wasn't designed for sustained conflict. High Chancellor Vexter called another emergency council session. This time, with genuine concern replacing his earlier arrogance. "We have now lost over 100 vessels to these human attacks," he announced to the assembled delegates. "Our supply lines are disrupted. Our communication networks are compromised. And our military commanders report that human forces continue to appear in unexpected locations. How is this possible when we destroyed their fleet 3 weeks ago?" An intelligence officer provided the answer that no one wanted to hear. "High Chancellor, our analysis indicates that humanity is building ships faster than we are destroying them," he reported. "Their construction rate has increased by 400% since the war began. Every captured human we've interrogated says the same thing. We will never stop fighting." Thylara spoke up, her voice carrying warning. "We assumed this would be a short conflict. A quick lesson to teach the humans their place," she said. "Instead, we are engaged in a war of attrition with a species that appears willing to sacrifice everything to continue fighting. Our economy cannot sustain this level of military expenditure indefinitely." Zoran refused to accept this analysis. "We simply need to strike harder," he argued. "Attack their home worlds, their production facilities, force them to defend instead of attack." Vexter considered this, then made a decision that would prove catastrophic. "Prepare a strike force to attack the human agricultural world of New Eden," he ordered. "If we threaten their food supply, they will be forced to negotiate." Commander Ben Torres received intelligence about the planned attack on New Eden with grim determination. The colony had 3 million civilians, mostly farmers and their families. "We can't defend it with conventional tactics," he told Admiral Kate Sullivan during their secure communication. "The Council is sending a massive fleet, and we don't have enough ships to stop them." Kate studied the tactical situation, her mind racing through possibilities. "And we don't defend it conventionally," she said. "Evacuate the civilians, but leave behind every piece of heavy equipment. Show them what happens when humans turn farming equipment into weapons." When the Council fleet arrived at New Eden, they found the cities empty, but the farms still operating automated harvesters moved through the fields. Massive machines designed to process crops across thousands of acres. What the Council forces didn't realize until too late was that those harvesters had been modified when Council troops landed to secure the agricultural facilities. The harvesters turned on the massive blades designed to cut wheat now. Cut through armored vehicles, heavy lifting equipment became improvised tanks. Irrigation systems pumped fuel instead of water, turning entire fields into fire traps. The farmers themselves, evacuated to the surrounding wilderness, conducted guerrilla operations using hunting rifles and homemade explosives. The Council troops, expecting an easy occupation, found themselves in a nightmare of. 1 year had passed since the war began, and both civilizations stood at the edge of collapse. The Galactic Council had lost over 60% of its military forces. Its economy was in shambles, and multiple member species were threatening to withdraw from the alliance completely. Humanity had suffered even greater losses in proportion to its size. But every report from human territory showed the same thing. They were still building ships, still training soldiers, still preparing to continue fighting. High Chancellor Vexter sat alone in his chambers, surrounded by casualty reports and economic projections that all told the same story. The Council could not continue. This war. Victory had become impossible, and even a stalemate would require resources that no longer existed. With hands that shook from exhaustion and stress, he composed a message that would have been unthinkable 1 year ago. The Galactic Council requests immediate peace negotiations with the human government. The message read, "We propose a ceasefire and diplomatic discussions to end this conflict. Ambassador Lisa Grant is specifically requested to represent human interests on Earth." President Helen Carter read the message with mixed emotions: relief that the killing might finally end, anger at the cost that could have been avoided, and grim satisfaction that humanity's warning had proven true. Prepare a response. She ordered her staff. We'll agree to negotiations, but on our terms and in our space. They came to us with demands now. They can come to us as equals. The council chamber had been damaged in a human raid 3 months earlier. So the peace negotiations took place in a temporary facility on the neutral station of Waypoint 7. Ambassador Lisa Grant walked into the negotiation room with General Jake Morrison at her side. Both of them bore the marks of the year-long war scars. Exhaustion and the weight of too many deaths witnessed High Chancellor Vexter stood to greet them. And Lisa saw immediately how much he had changed. The arrogant leader who had mocked her warning was gone, replaced by a being who had learned the terrible cost of underestimating an enemy. Ambassador Grant. General Morrison, Vexter said formally, "Thank you for agreeing to these negotiations." Lisa took her seat at the negotiation table, meeting Vexter's compound eyes with steady human gaze. "We're here because our warning was ignored," she said. Bluntly, 12,000 civilians on Titan 7 could have remained safe in their homes. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers on both sides could have lived full lives. Instead, we have this. She gestured at the tactical displays, showing the devastation across dozens of worlds. Vexter's mandibles clicked in what Lisa recognized as acknowledgement and shame. "You are correct," he said, his voice quiet. "I dismissed your warning as the bluster of an inexperienced species. I believed that superior technology and numbers would make resistance futile. I was wrong. And that mistake has cost both our civilizations dearly." Council member Thylara, who had advocated for peace from the beginning, spoke up from her tank. "What matters now is not assigning blame but finding a path forward," she said gently. "Both our peoples have suffered enough." General Jake Morrison pulled up a holographic display showing the current military situation. "Before we discuss peace terms, you need to understand the human position," he said. "We have lost over 300,000 military personnel and twice that number of civilians. Our economy has been transformed entirely to war production. Our people have sacrificed everything to continue this fight." He paused, letting that information settle. "But despite all those losses, we are still building ships." Jake continued. "We are still training new soldiers. We are still capable of continuing this war for years if necessary." Delegate Zoran, who had laughed at the human warning 1 year ago, sat silently in his seat. His scale showed colors that indicated defeat and resignation. He had commanded 3 major offensives personally, and all 3 had ended in costly stalemates or outright retreats. "We understand your capability," he said quietly. "We have learned what it means to fight an enemy that never stops." President Helen Cotter appeared via holographic projection, her image dominating one wall of the negotiation room. She had refused to come in person, making a point that the council would negotiate on human terms or not at all. "The Galactic Council issued an ultimatum 1 year ago," she said, her voice carrying the authority of a leader who had guided her people through existential crisis. "You demanded we surrender Titan 7 or face total war. We refused. And you attacked. Now we have our own terms for peace." She transmitted a document that appeared on every delegate's display. Vexter read through the terms with growing understanding of how completely the power dynamic had shifted. Full recognition of human sovereignty over all claimed territories. He read aloud. Immediate withdrawal of all council forces from human space. War reparations to be paid over 20 years. A permanent seat on the Galactic Council with full voting rights. These terms are, he hesitated, searching for the right word. Harsh. Thylara supplied, but fair. Given the circumstances, you started a war to take one colony. Now you must recognize all human claims and give them political power equal to any council species. Soran's scales flushed with anger briefly, then settled to resigned acceptance. "If we refuse these terms," he asked, Though he already knew the answer, President Carter's expression remained impassive. "Then the war continues until either we are destroyed or you are," she said simply. "We gave you this choice 1 year ago. Ambassador Grant warned you clearly what would happen. You chose not to listen. We will not offer this choice again." Vexter looked around the negotiation table at his fellow council members. He saw exhaustion, defeat, and acceptance in their expressions. "The council accepts these terms," he said formally. "We will withdraw from all human territories immediately. We will begin war reparations within 30 days. And we will grant humanity a permanent council seat with full voting rights." Lisa Grant felt no triumph in the moment, only relief and sorrow. "There are additional terms regarding the treatment of prisoners and the return of remains," she said quietly. "We want our dead brought home. We want the families to have closure." Thylara nodded gently. "Of course," she said. "We will cooperate fully in the recovery and return of all human casualties. This is the least we can do." The negotiations continued for 3 more days, working out the details of the ceasefire, the withdrawal schedules, and the mechanisms for reparation payments. Through it all, Lisa and Jake represented humanity with dignity and firmness, never forgetting the cost that had brought them to this table on the final day. As the treaty documents were prepared for signing, Vexter requested a private conversation with Lisa. They stood on an observation deck, looking out at the stars that had seen so much conflict. "I wanted to apologize personally," Vexter said. "When you came to the council chamber 1 year ago, you gave us clear warning. You told us that humans never stop striking when they believe they are right. I laughed at you." Lisa looked at the alien leader who had learned such a hard lesson. "We didn't want this war," she said. "We would have been content to remain a small part of the galactic community. But you forced us to prove what we are capable of. You forced us to show that human determination is not a bluff or an emotional reaction. It is a fundamental part of who we are." Vexter's mandibles clicked in what might have been understanding or regret. "My species has existed for over 6,000 years," he said. "We have seen civilizations rise and fall, but I have never encountered a species like yours. Most beings calculate costs and benefits. Most species surrender when the math says they should. Humans refuse to accept that logic. I don't know if that makes you brave or insane." Lisa smiled sadly. "Perhaps both," she admitted, "but it makes us who we are. We warned you that we never stop striking. We told you that we would fight until extinction or victory. You had the chance to avoid all this death and destruction. Instead, you chose to learn the hard way." The treaty signing ceremony took place 2 days later. Representatives from all 47 council species gathered to witness humanity's formal admission to the galactic political structure. President Carter signed for humanity, her hand steady as she committed her civilization to this new path. Vexter signed for the council, acknowledging the new reality that human persistence had created. As the ceremony concluded, Lisa stood with Jake and other human delegates. Captain Ryan Parker was there, recovered from injuries sustained when he survived the Battle of Titan 7 in an escape pod. General McCall Wright attended despite ongoing physical therapy for wounds suffered on New Terra. Dozens of other human military and civilian leaders filled the hall, each one bearing scars from the year-long conflict. "We won," Jake said quietly to Lisa. "But it doesn't feel like victory." Lisa nodded, thinking of all the names that would never attend such ceremonies. Admiral Kate Sullivan, who had died ramming her flagship into an enemy command ship. Pilot Danny Ross, whose sacrifice had saved countless lives. Captain Marcus Hill, killed in the final days of the war during a supply raid. So many others, human and council alike, who had died because one species underestimated another. "No," she agreed. "It feels like survival. We proved we could never be broken, but the cost was terrible." 3 months later, The first human memorial on Titan 7 was completed. The colony had been rebuilt by its former residents, who had returned to their homes as soon as the treaty was signed. 6 months into the war, both sides had bled far more than anyone had anticipated. The Galactic Council had lost 40% of its military capacity. Ships destroyed in hundreds of engagements across dozens of star systems. Human casualties ran even higher in percentage terms. But the humans kept replacing their losses with new ships, new weapons, new tactics. General Nicole Wright stood in the command center on the newly retaken colony world of Haven's Rest, studying tactical maps that showed 3 more occupied worlds ready for liberation. Her ground forces had become legendary for their tenacity and innovative tactics, where Council troops relied on superior technology and overwhelming firepower. Human soldiers relied on adaptation and sheer determination. Status on the next offensive. She requested from her Staff Colonel Steve Palmer, her Chief Tactical Officer, highlighted 3 target worlds on the strategic display. We have sufficient forces to launch simultaneous ground campaigns on all 3 worlds, he reported. Council garrison strength is weakened due to fleet redeployments. They're pulling troops from ground positions to crew their damaged ships. Nicole nodded, recognizing the strategic opportunity. Begin preparations immediately, she ordered. I want shock troops ready to deploy within 48 hours across the galaxy. Pilot Danny Ross had become something more than just a fighter ace with 63 confirmed Council ship kills. His name was known throughout both the human fleet and Council military. Young pilots studied his tactics, trying to replicate his seemingly impossible maneuvers. Council commanders issued specific warnings about the ghost pilot who appeared from nowhere and disappeared before counterfire could track him. Danny sat in his fighter's cockpit, running pre-flight checks before another patrol mission. His hands moved automatically across the controls. Muscle memory built from countless hours of combat. Ghost leader. This is Fleet Command, his radio crackled. We're picking up a Council supply convoy heading towards Sector 7. Your squadron is closest. Can you intercept? Danny checked his fuel and ammunition levels. His squadron had already flown 2 missions today, and they were all running low on both, but the opportunity was too valuable to pass up. Confirmed. Fleet Command, he responded. Ghost Squadron is moving to intercept. He switched to his squadron frequency. All Ghost fighters, form up on my wing, he ordered. We've got 1 more hunt before we head home. His 7 remaining pilots acknowledged and fell into formation behind him. They had started the war with 12 fighters in the squadron. The 5 missing pilots were listed as killed in action, their names added to a memorial that grew longer every week. The Council convoy consisted of 5 massive transport ships carrying critical supplies to their forward base. Escort fighters provided protection, their pilots confident that no human force would dare attack in this well-defended sector. They were wrong about that. Danny's squadron came screaming out of a nearby nebula at full throttle, weapons already firing. The surprise was complete too. Council escorts exploded before they even realized they were under attack. Target the transports. Danny commanded. Maximum damage in minimum time. His fighter danced through the defensive fire, his targeting computer painting solutions faster than the Council ships could react. A plasma torpedo streaked from his fighter and slammed into a transport's engine section. The massive ship lurched out of formation, trailing atmosphere and debris around him. His squadron executed their attacks with practiced precision. They had learned from Danny's example that hesitation in combat meant death. Another transport exploded, its cargo of ammunition cooking off in a chain reaction that consumed 2 nearby escort fighters. But the Council defenders were finally responding with coordinated fire. Lieutenant Sarah Kim's fighter took a direct hit, her canopy shattering. and her fighter tumbling out of control. "I'm hit," she broadcast. Her voice strained, losing cabin pressure, can't maintain control. Danny immediately broke off his attack run and dove toward her crippled fighter. "Sarah, eject now," he ordered. "I'll cover your escape pod." "Negative," she responded. Her breathing labored. "Ejection system is damaged. I can't separate from the fighter." Danny's tactical computer showed. Council reinforcements arriving in less than 2 minutes. He had a choice. Save his pilot or complete the mission. There was no choice at all. All ghost fighters. "Continue the attack," he commanded. "I'm going after Sarah." He positioned his fighter alongside Sarah's tumbling craft and matched her chaotic spin using his fighter's grappling field. A tool designed for salvage operations. He locked onto a damaged ship. "Sarah, I'm going to tow you out of here," he said. "Just hold on and stay conscious." The strain on his fighter's engines was enormous as he dragged her damaged craft away from the Battle Council fighters pursued. Firing on both of them, Danny's shields flickered and failed under the assault. But he refused to release Sarah's fighter. His squadron completed the attack, destroying 3 of the 5 transports before withdrawing. They had won another tactical victory. But Danny's fighter was critically damaged by the time he reached the safety of friendly lines. He managed to land both fighters on a nearby human carrier. But his own ship would never fly again as medics pulled Sarah from her cockpit. She looked at Danny with tears streaming down her face. "You sacrificed your fighter for me," she said. "You've flown that ship for 2 years." Danny helped her to the medical bay, his expression serious but calm. "I can get another fighter," he said simply. "I can't get another you. We don't leave our people behind. That's what makes us human on Earth." President Helen Carter reviewed casualty reports that made her heart heavy. Numbers were staggering. Over 200,000 military personnel killed. Another 500,000 wounded. The economic strain of total war mobilization was beginning to show. Rationing had been implemented across all human worlds, and civilian life had been transformed completely. But the reports from the front lines showed that the Council was suffering even more. Their economy, built for peace and prosperity, was collapsing under the strain of prolonged conflict. Multiple Council member species were privately discussing withdrawal from the war. Carter knew that the next major engagement would determine the war's outcome. If humans could strike a decisive blow, the Council might finally agree to negotiations. If the Council crushed human forces in a major battle, humanity might not have the resources to continue. Chancellor Vexter reached the same conclusion. He assembled the largest Council fleet in history, over 3,000 ships representing every remaining military asset the Council could muster. "We will crush the humans in a single decisive battle," he declared to the Council Assembly. "We will strike at their industrial heart, destroy their shipbuilding capacity, and force them to accept peace on our terms." The target was New Terra, humanity's largest industrial colony and the center of human warship production. If New Terra fell, human ability to replace losses would be crippled. Admiral Vorthik, who had commanded the attack on Titan VII 6 months earlier, led the massive fleet. He had learned to respect human capabilities, but he believed that overwhelming force would finally break their resistance. "This time, there will be no mistakes," he told his commanders. "We will destroy every orbital facility, every shipyard, every factory. The humans will learn that persistence means nothing against absolute superiority." Admiral Kate Sullivan received intelligence about the impending attack with grim certainty. Knew Terra couldn't be defended against a fleet of 3,000 ships. Humanity could muster perhaps 800 vessels to defend the colony, and even fighting with everything they had, the odds were impossible. But surrender was never considered. "Not even for a moment. We'll make them pay for every meter of space," Kate told her assembled fleet commanders. "If we're going to lose New Terra, We'll make sure the Council loses the capacity to continue this war. General Nicole Wright coordinated her ground forces for a scorched earth defense. If they want our factories, they'll get empty shells, she ordered. Evacuate the workers, rig everything for demolition, and prepare to fight from the ruins. 3 million workers evacuated New Terra over the course of a week, fleeing to other human colonies. They left behind their homes, their lives, everything they had built, but they also left behind weapons, traps, and a determination to make the Council regret every second of occupation. The Battle of New Terra began when the massive Council fleet emerged from hyperspace. Admiral Kate Sullivan's fleet waited for them. 800 human ships arrayed in defensive formation around the colony. All ships. This is Sullivan. She broadcast on the open fleet channel. The Council thinks they can break us with numbers. They think we'll surrender when we see how outmatched we are. Let's show them what humans do when the odds are impossible. The human fleet charged directly at the Council formation, abandoning all defensive strategy for pure aggressive assault. Danny Ross led the fighter squadrons, his new ship already bearing scorch marks from previous battles. All fighters, target the capital ships, he commanded. We take down their dreadnoughts, even if it costs us everything. The space battle became the largest in galactic history. Thousands of ships engaged across millions of cubic kilometers. Weapons fire, creating a deadly light show visible from New Terra's surface. Human ships employed every tactic they had learned, every innovation they had developed. They used kamikaze runs when ammunition ran low, ramming Council